Let me tell you something most people never admit out loud. Breaking doesn't always look like shattering glass. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like laughter that feels a little too forced. Sometimes it's hidden behind the words, "I'm fine," when in truth, you're anything but. And yet, the strange thing about breaking inside is that the world rarely notices when it happens. It's almost invisible. But to the one living it, it feels like the ground is splitting open beneath their feet. I want you to imagine this. A person smiles at you across the street, waves, maybe even cracks a joke. But what if I told you, in that exact moment, their inner world feels like a collapsing house? That's the paradox of breaking inside. It's quiet on the outside, but deafening within. And here's where psychology begins to explain something we rarely talk about. See, our brains are wired for survival. We build walls, coping mechanisms, masks. We construct versions of ourselves that look strong, capable, unbothered. But behind those walls, pressure builds. Every unspoken word, every hidden disappointment, every dream deferred becomes another weight pressing down. And when that pressure reaches a threshold, something inside quietly cracks. Psychologists call this emotional dissonance, when the outside doesn't match the inside. And it's one of the most draining states a human being can live in. But here's the fascinating and heartbreaking truth. Breaking inside doesn't always come from a single catastrophic moment. More often, it comes from the small things, the text that never came, the apology you never received, the promise you kept that no one else honored, tiny fractures in the soul, repeating, until one day, you notice you don't feel like yourself anymore. And this is where the story gets even deeper, because when people break inside, they don't always collapse. Some people keep functioning. They go to work, they laugh at family dinners, they send emails, post photos, keep life moving. And yet, psychology shows us something remarkable here. It's called the masking effect. It's when individuals suppress their true emotions, not just from others, but from themselves. They convince themselves they're fine, until one day, the mask becomes so heavy, it feels impossible to carry. Now, maybe you're wondering, why does the human mind do this? Why don't we just show our true feelings? The answer lies in what psychologists call social conditioning. From childhood, most of us are taught to hold it together. Don't cry in public. Don't be weak. Don't let anyone see you struggle. And while that conditioning helps us function in society, it also teaches us to abandon parts of ourselves. We trade authenticity for acceptance. And slowly, without even realizing it, we lose the language to express what we truly feel. That's why breaking inside often feels so lonely. It's not that people don't care, it's that they don't even see it. But let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that when you hold back tears for too long, even small moments make you want to cry? Like a stranger holding the door open, or a random song on the radio. That's not weakness, that's called emotional spillover. The mind can only store so much unprocessed pain before it leaks into unexpected corners of life. And here's the twist, those leaks are signals that the breaking inside is reaching the surface, begging for release, begging to be acknowledged. Now let's create a loop here, because you might be thinking, if breaking inside is so silent, how do we even recognize it? How do we know when we or someone we love is going through it? Hold on to that thought, because I'll come back to it. But first, we need to explore something even more curious. Why the breaking itself can sometimes become the very turning point of transformation. Here's the paradox. Breaking inside hurts, but it also reveals. It exposes what you've been avoiding. Psychology calls this the rupture-repair cycle. In therapy, it means that breakdowns in connection, when faced honestly, can lead to deeper bonds. The same principle applies within ourselves. The break shows us where we've been carrying too much, where we've been dishonest with our own needs. The pain is information. It's your mind saying something has to change. Think about this. When a bone breaks, doctors reset it so it heals stronger. The same can be true for the mind. Breaking doesn't mean you're weak. It means your old way of holding everything together no longer works. It means the structure you built has reached its limit. And while that's terrifying, it's also the exact moment when something new can be built. But here's the catch: only if we pay attention. Only if we dare to listen to the break instead of hiding it. Now let's go back to that earlier question. How do we recognize the signs of breaking inside? Psychology offers clues: a sudden disinterest in things that once mattered, a persistent sense of emptiness, irritability that seems out of proportion, trouble sleeping, or on the opposite end, sleeping too much. Small signals, but together they paint a picture. And if you've seen yourself in any of these, pause. Take a breath. It doesn't mean you're broken beyond repair. It means your soul is asking for rest, for honesty, for release. But here's the deeper loop I want you to hold on to, because there's one thing most people miss. Breaking inside often disguises itself as strength. Yes, you heard that right. The person who says, "I don't need anyone," may secretly be the one needing connection the most. The one who laughs the loudest in a crowd may cry the hardest when they're alone. This is called reaction formation, a defense mechanism where people express the opposite of what they feel to protect themselves. And once you know this, you'll start noticing it everywhere. The brave face, the endless jokes, the calm demeanor. Sometimes they're not masks of joy, they're shields of survival. Now, here's where the payoff begins. Because if you understand this, if you truly see it, then breaking inside becomes less of a silent prison and more of a language. It's your inner self trying to communicate through cracks and shadows. And what it's saying is this: you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to hold everything together all the time. You need space to be human. But let me leave you with one more curiosity before we move forward. What if breaking inside isn't the end of strength, but the beginning of it? What if the cracks are not flaws, but openings for light to enter? Think about that, because in the next part of this story, I'll share how psychology explains the strange but powerful way people rebuild after the break, and why those who've been broken often carry a depth, a wisdom, and a resilience that can't be learned any other way. So now, let's explore what happens after the break, because here's something most people don't realize: breaking inside doesn't have to end in despair. In fact, psychology shows us that these moments of inner fracture can be transformative. They force the mind and the heart to confront what it's been avoiding. This confrontation is uncomfortable, yes, even terrifying, but it is also where the seeds of resilience are planted. Think of it like a tree in the middle of a storm. The wind bends it, sometimes nearly snapping its branches, and yet, when the storm passes, the tree has often grown stronger roots, deeper connections to the earth beneath it. Breaking inside is the storm, and your mind, your emotions, your inner self, all of them, are the tree. And the cracks, they're not just fractures, they're invitations. Invitations to grow, to shift, to rebuild with awareness. One of the most fascinating concepts in psychology is called post-traumatic growth. It's the idea that when someone experiences a profound internal struggle, if they navigate it consciously, they don't just return to the way they were. They evolve. They become more empathetic, more self-aware, more capable of deep connection. And that's precisely why those who have felt deeply broken often carry a wisdom that others may never access. Their insight into human emotion, their sensitivity to subtle pain, becomes a kind of strength, one built not from avoidance or denial, but from surviving, observing, and integrating the fracture. But here's where it gets delicate. This isn't a story about quick fixes or motivational slogans. Breaking inside isn't a challenge you can just push through. It's a process. The first step is recognition, naming it, seeing it. Many people try to run from it, fill the emptiness with distractions, overwork, or constant noise. But the moment you stop running, the moment you allow yourself to feel what's happening, is when the mind begins to reorient itself. This is what psychologists call emotional processing. Emotional processing doesn't mean crying in public or telling the whole world your story. It means giving yourself permission to experience the emotion fully, privately, or with someone you trust. Writing it down, reflecting, understanding the triggers, the roots, and the patterns. It's slow, sometimes agonizing, but it's also profoundly liberating. And here's a crucial insight. The human brain is naturally designed to heal emotionally, given the space, the reflection, and the right support. Neuroscience shows that the same neural pathways that encode pain can, through conscious reflection and repetition, rewire into pathways for understanding, empathy, and resilience. Now, here's a curiosity loop I want you to consider. Why is it that when we break inside, our relationships often feel strained? Why do those closest to us sometimes misunderstand our silence, our moodiness, or our withdrawal? The answer lies in a concept called emotional contagion. Humans are wired to mirror the emotions of those around them, to respond to cues, to synchronize with subtle signals. When someone breaks inside silently, the cues can be ambiguous. Confusion arises, tension grows, and without awareness, relationships suffer. But when we understand this, we can start to communicate differently, not by explaining every detail, but by signaling, I am navigating something inside, and I need space and understanding. That alone can transform a connection from friction to support. Here's another remarkable psychological insight. Those who break inside deeply often develop what is called enhanced emotional granularity. This is the ability to identify subtle differences between emotions. It's not just sadness or anger. It's the quiet ache of missing someone before you even realize they're gone. It's the simmering frustration of unfulfilled expectations. It's the bittersweet mix of nostalgia and longing. Emotional granularity allows a person to respond to life with nuance and awareness, to see the spectrum rather than the extremes. And that ability, born from breaking, becomes a hidden superpower, a lens through which life is experienced more fully, more authentically. But let's not romanticize the process. Breaking inside is lonely, and it can feel endless. There are days when the weight feels unbearable, when every step forward seems to bring 2 steps back, and that is real. It is human. But here's the critical psychological trick that changes everything. Integration. Integration is the act of taking the pain, the fracture, the inner chaos, and weaving it into your story rather than fighting it. When you integrate, you don't erase the breaking. You honor it, you acknowledge it, you let it become part of your narrative, rather than letting it define your demise. Now, here's a moment I want you to hold on to. Imagine looking into a mirror, not just to see your reflection, but to see the invisible fractures as well. The hidden cracks that have shaped your resilience, your empathy, your wisdom. Most people fear that reflection, but when we dare to confront it, we begin to see beauty where there once was only pain. Psychology calls this meaning making. It's the process by which we assign understanding, purpose, and narrative to experiences that otherwise feel chaotic and meaningless. And meaning making is the bridge from breaking to becoming, from silent suffering to conscious growth. Let me take you even deeper. There's a principle called self-compassion, which studies show is one of the most powerful antidotes to inner collapse. Self-compassion isn't indulgence. It's not laziness. It's the act of treating yourself with the same kindness, patience, and understanding that you would extend to someone you love deeply. It is saying, it's okay that I am struggling. It's okay that I feel broken. This does not make me lesser. It makes me human. Neuroscientists have discovered that self-compassion activates regions of the brain associated with safety and connection, helping to reduce the emotional and physiological impact of stress. In short, it teaches the mind to hold itself gently while it heals. Now here's a curiosity twist. Breaking inside often leads to creativity. Artists, writers, musicians, thinkers, so many of them have spoken about the strange alchemy of pain transforming into expression. When a person is fractured, they see the world differently. They notice subtleties others miss. They feel emotions with clarity and depth. This is why literature, music, and art often resonate most when it touches upon the raw, unspoken experiences of the human heart. And that's the fascinating psychology behind it. Breaking is painful, but it tunes perception. It sharpens the ability to empathize, to connect, to create. And here's the final loop before we reach the ending, the most profound insight of all. Breaking inside teaches us impermanence. Nothing lasts. Joy, pain, grief, happiness, all of it flows, all of it changes. When we break, we glimpse the fragility of existence, and with that glimpse comes clarity. We begin to cherish the fleeting moments, to notice the beauty in the ordinary, to approach others with gentleness and patience. This awareness doesn't erase the struggle, but it transforms it into something sacred, something profoundly human. So what do we take from all of this? Breaking inside is not a failure. It is a signal. It is a teacher. It is a passage through which the human psyche can grow, expand, and deepen. And the remarkable thing about this process is that it is universal. Every human being carries the potential for fracture. Every human being carries the potential for growth. The difference lies in whether we acknowledge the break, listen to its message, and allow ourselves to be changed by it. Let me close with a thought to carry with you. The cracks in your heart, the silent fractures, the hidden ache, they are not weaknesses. They are the outline of the person you are becoming. They are evidence that you have survived, that you have felt deeply, that you have lived. And if you tend to these cracks with awareness, compassion, and courage, you may discover something extraordinary. That the depth of your suffering becomes the depth of your wisdom. That the silent breaks inside can give rise to the strongest, most authentic self you will ever know. And in that space, in that quiet, fragile, astonishing space between what was broken and what is healed, you realize something profoundly human. To break inside is not to end. It is to begin again, wiser, gentler, and infinitely more alive than before.